Okay, my fellow Earthlings, what I'm posting in what you see in this video is actually a painting flow or a stream I had on my old channel, where I paint a portrait of a father, a son, and a dog. There's a second clip in this, which was actually a standalone video on my old channel, where I paint the dog's face. So you can see that. Before I go on here, I want to remind you, if you want to give me something back for what you get from my videos, you can do that by buying me a coffee. There's a link in the description and on my channel. You can go to PATRON if you want me to teach you how to paint, and sign up there. And so do that. And if you really want to help my channel, thumbs up, leave a comment, and tell me what you think, and I will engage with you in comments, and also answer questions if you have some about painting or whatever. Yeah, so what you actually see here in this video is me doing painting while I listen to a science documentary about reality, space, structure, texture. That is also why I picked that title to this video, how to paint structure, texture and space, because that is what mathematics do in nature, and that is what I do on the canvas. So yeah, so with this, I hope you binge watch, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I hope you see you on Patreon. So with this, kisses. By the way, I'm actually at my old grandmother's house in my home Iceland, Karmøy. That's where I grew up, and I use this attic in the oldest house we have as a studio and office. So that is why I'm not in my original studio. Okay, have a good one. Cheers. Coffee from Coffee Hall. Okay, I will paint for an hour with some science stuff, and if you like to ask some questions or something, you just write below and I address it when I'm finished. So here we go.
We live in an age of astonishing advances.
Sending at about 175 meters per second.
Engineers can land a car-sized rover on Mars.
Touchdown confirmed.
Physicists probe the essence of all matter, while we communicate wirelessly on a vast worldwide network. But underlying all of these modern wonders is something deep and mysteriously powerful. It's been called the language of the universe, and perhaps it's civilization's greatest achievement. Its name? Mathematics. But where does math come from? And why in science does it work so well?
Albert Einstein wondered how is it possible that mathematics does so well in explaining the universes we see.
Is mathematics even human?
There doesn't really seem to be an upper limit to numerical abilities of animals.
And is it the key to the cosmos?
Our physical world doesn't just have some mathematical properties, but it has only mathematical properties.
The great math mystery. Next on Knut. Human beings have always looked at nature and searched for patterns. Eons ago, we gazed at the stars and discovered patterns we call constellations, even coming to believe they might control our destiny. We watched the days turn to night and back to day, and seasons as they come and go, and called that pattern time. We see symmetrical patterns in the human body and the tiger's stripes, and build those patterns into what we create, from art to our cities. But what do patterns tell us? Why should the spiral shape of the nautilus shell be so similar to the spiral of a galaxy? Or the spiral found in a sliced open head of cabbage? When scientists seek to understand the patterns of our world, they often turn to a powerful tool, mathematics. They quantify their observations and use mathematical techniques to examine them, hoping to discover the underlying causes of nature's rhythms and regularities. And it's worked, revealing the secrets behind the elliptical orbits of the planets to the electromagnetic waves that connect our cell phones. Mathematics has even guided the way, leading us right down to the subatomic building blocks of matter. Which raises the question, why does it work at all? Is there an inherent mathematical nature to reality? Or is mathematics all in our heads? Mario Livio is an astrophysicist who wrestles with these questions. He's fascinated by the deep and often mysterious connection between mathematics and the world.
If you look at nature, there are numbers all around us. You know, look at flowers, for example. So there are many flowers that have 3 petals like this, or 5 like this. Some of them may have 34 or 55. These numbers occur very often.
These may sound like random numbers, but they're all part of what is known as the Fibonacci sequence, a series of numbers developed by a 13th century mathematician.
You start with the numbers 1 and 1, and from that point on, you keep adding up the last 2 numbers. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Now 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. And you keep going like this, 5 plus 8.
Today, hundreds of years later, this seemingly arbitrary progression of numbers fascinates many who see in it clues to everything from human beauty to the stock market. While most of those claims remain unproven, it is curious how evolution seems to favor these numbers.
And as it turns out, I mean, this sequence appears quite frequently in nature.
Fibonacci numbers show up in petal counts, especially of daisies. But that's just a start.
Statistically, the Fibonacci numbers do appear a lot in botany. For instance, if you look at the bottom of the pine cone, you will see often spirals in their scales. You end up counting those spirals, you will usually find a Fibonacci number. And then you will count the spirals going in the other direction, and you will find an adjacent Fibonacci number.
The same is true of the seeds on a sunflower head. 2 sets of spirals, and if you count the spirals in each direction, both are Fibonacci numbers. While there are some theories explaining the Fibonacci botany connection, it still raises some intriguing questions.
So, do plants know math? The short answer to that is no. They don't need to know math. In a very simple geometric way, they set up a little machine that creates the Fibonacci sequence in many cases.
The connections between the physical world and mathematics run deep. We all know the number pi from geometry, the ratio between the circumference of a circle and its diameter, and that its decimal digits go on forever without a repeating pattern. As of 2013, it had been calculated out to 12.1 trillion digits, but somehow pi is a whole lot more.
Pi appears in a whole host of other phenomena which have, at least on the face of it, nothing to do with circles or anything. In particular, it appears in probability theory quite a bit. Suppose I take this needle, so that the length of the needle is equal to the distance between two lines on this piece of paper. And suppose I drop this needle now on the paper.
Sometimes when you drop the needle, it will cut a line, and sometimes it drops between the lines. It turns out the probability that the needle lands so it cuts a line is exactly 2 over pi, or about 64%.
Now, what that means is that in principle, I could drop this needle millions of times. I could count the times when it crosses a line and when it doesn't cross a line, and I could actually even calculate pi. Even though there are no circles here, no diameters of a circle, nothing like that. It's really amazing.
Since pi relates a round object, a circle, with a straight one, its diameter, it can show up in the strangest of places. Some see it in the meandering path of rivers. A river's actual length as it winds its way from its source to its mouth, compared to the direct distance, on average seems to be about pi. Models for just about anything involving waves will have pi in them. Like those for light and sound. Pi tells us which color should appear in a rainbow and how middle C should sound on a piano. Pi shows up in apples, in the way cells grow into spherical shapes, or in the brightness of a supernova. One writer has suggested it's like seeing pi on a series of mountain peaks, poking out of a fog-shrouded valley. We know there's a way they're all connected, but it's not always obvious how. Pi is but one example of a vast interconnected web of mathematics that seems to reveal an often hidden and deep order to our world. Physicist Max Tegmark from MIT thinks he knows why. He sees similarities between our world and that of a computer game.
If I were a character in a computer game that were so advanced that I were actually conscious, and I started exploring my video game world, it would actually feel to me like it was made of real, solid objects, made of physical stuff. Yet, if I started studying, as the curious physicist that I am, the properties of this stuff, the equations by which things move, and the equations that give the stuff its properties, I would discover eventually that all these properties were mathematical. The mathematical properties that the programmer had actually put into the software that describes everything.
The laws of physics in a game, like how an object floats, bounces, or crashes, are only mathematical rules created by a programmer. Ultimately, the entire universe of a computer game is just numbers and equations.
That's exactly what I perceive in this reality too as a physicist, that the closer I look at things that seem non-mathematical, like my arm here in my hand, the more mathematical it turns out to be. Could it be that our world also then is really just as mathematical as the computer game reality?
To Max, the software world of a game isn't that different from the physical world we live in. He thinks that mathematics works so well to describe reality because ultimately mathematics is all that it is. There's nothing else.
Many of my physics colleagues will say that mathematics describes our physical reality, at least in some approximate sense. I go further and argue that it actually is our physical reality, because I'm arguing that our physical world doesn't just have some mathematical properties, but it has only mathematical properties.
Our physical reality is a bit like a digital photograph, according to Max. The photo looks like the pond, but as we move in closer and closer, we can see it is really a field of pixels, each represented by 3 numbers that specify the amount of red, green, and blue. While the universe is vast in its size and complexity, requiring an unbelievably large collection of numbers to describe it, Max sees its underlying mathematical structure as surprisingly simple. It's just 32 numbers, constants, like the masses of elementary particles, along with a handful of mathematical equations, the fundamental laws of physics. And it all fits on a wall, though there are still some questions.
But even though we don't know what exactly is going to go here, I'm really confident that what will go here will be mathematical equations, that everything is ultimately mathematical.
Max trademarks matrix-like view that mathematics doesn't just describe reality, but is its essence. May sound radical, but it has deep roots in history. Going back to ancient Greece, to the time of the philosopher and mystic Pythagoras. Stories say he explored the affinity between mathematics and music, a relationship that resonates to this day in the work of Esperanza Spalding, an acclaimed jazz musician who studied music theory and sees its parallel in mathematics.
I love the experience of math. The part that I enjoy about math, I get to experience through music too. At the beginning, you're studying all the little equations, but you get to have this very visceral relationship with the product of those equations, which is sound and music and harmony and dissonance and all that good stuff. So I'm much better at music than at math, but I love math with a passion. They're both just as much work. They both, you have to study it off. Your head off, study your head off.
The ancient Greeks found 3 relationships between notes especially pleasing. Now we call them an octave, a fifth, and a fourth.
An octave is easy to remember because it's the first 2 notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. La, la, that's an octave. Somewhere. A fifth sounds like this. La, la, or the first 2 notes of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And a fourth sounds like la, la. You can think of it as the first 2 notes of Here Comes the Bride.
In the 6th century BCE, the Greek philosopher Pythagoras is said to have discovered that those beautiful musical relationships were also beautiful mathematical relationships by measuring the lengths of the vibrating strings. In an octave, the string lengths create a ratio of 2 to 1. In a fifth, the ratio is 3 to 2. And in a fourth, it is 4 to 3.
Seeing a common pattern throughout sound, that could be a big eye-opener, saying, well, if this exists in sound, and if it's true universally through all sounds, this ratio could exist universally everywhere, right? And doesn't it?
Pythagoreans worshiped the idea of numbers. The fact that simple ratios produced harmonious sounds was proof of a hidden order in the natural world. And that order was made of numbers. A profound insight that mathematicians and scientists continue to explore to this day. In fact, there are plenty of other physical phenomena that follow simple ratios. From the 2-to-1 ratio of hydrogen atoms to oxygen atoms in water, to the number of times the moon orbits the Earth compared to its own rotation, 1-to-1. Or that Mercury rotates exactly 3 times when it orbits the Sun twice, a 3-to-2 ratio. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras and his followers had a profound effect on another Greek philosopher, Plato, whose ideas also resonate to this day, especially among mathematicians. Plato believed that geometry and mathematics exist in their own ideal world.
So when we draw a circle on a piece of paper, this is not the real circle. The real circle is in that world, and this is just an approximation of that real circle, and the same with all other shapes. And Plato liked very much these 5 solids, the Platonic solids we call them today, and he assigned each one of them to one of the elements that formed the world as he saw it.
The stable cube was Earth. The tetrahedron with its pointy corners was fire. The mobile-looking octahedron Plato thought of as air. And the 20-sided icosahedron was water.
And finally, the dodecahedron, this was the thing that signified the cosmos as a whole.
So Plato's mathematical forms were the ideal version of the world around us, and they existed in their own realm. And however bizarre that may sound, that mathematics exists in its own world, shaping the world we see, it's an idea that to this day many mathematicians and scientists can relate to. The sense they have when they're doing math, that they're just uncovering something that's already out there.
I feel quite strongly that mathematics is discovered in my work as a mathematician. It always feels to me there is a thing out there and I'm kind of trying to find it and understand it and touch it.
As someone who actually has had the pleasure of making new mathematics, it feels like there's something there before you get to it.
If I have to choose, I think it's more discovered than invented, because I think there's a reality to what we study in mathematics. When we do good mathematics, we're discovering something about the way our minds work in interaction with the world.
Well, I know that because that's what I do. I come to my office, I sit down in front of my whiteboard and I try and understand that thing that's out there. And every now and then I'm discovering a new bit of it. That's exactly what it feels like.
To many mathematicians, it feels like math is discovered rather than invented. But is that just a feeling? Could it be that mathematics is purely a product of the human brain? Meet Sham, a bona fide math whiz.
800 on the SAT math. That's pretty good. You took it when you were how old?
11.
11. Wow, that's like a perfect score.
Where does Sham's math genius come from? It turns out we can pinpoint it, and it's all in his head. Using fMRI, scientists can scan Sham's brain as he answers math questions to see which parts of the brain receive more blood, a sign they are hard at work.
All right, Sam, I'll start right now, okay, buddy?
In images of Sham's brain, the parietal lobes glow an especially bright crimson.
He is relying on parietal areas to determine these mathematical relationships. That's characteristic of lots of math-gifted types.
In tests similar to Sham's, kids who exhibit high math performance have 5 to 6 times more neuron activation than average kids in these brain regions. But is that the result of teaching and intense practice? Or are the foundations of math built into our brains? Scientists are looking for the answer here at the Duke University Lemur Center, a 70-acre sanctuary in North Carolina, the largest one for rare and endangered lemurs in the world. Like all primates, lemurs are related to humans through a common ancestor that lived as many as 65 million years ago. Scientists believe lemurs share many characteristics with those earliest primates, making them a window, though a blurry one, into our ancient past.
Got a choice here, Terry's. Come on up.
Duke Professor Liz Brannon investigates how well lemurs, like Terry's here, can compare quantities.
Many different animals choose larger food quantities. So what is Terry's doing? What are all of these different animals doing when they compare two quantities? Well, clearly he's not using verbal labels. He's not using symbols. We need to figure out whether they can really use number, pure number, as a cue.
To test how well Terry's can distinguish quantities, he's been taught a touchscreen computer game. The red square starts around. If he touches it, two squares appear containing different numbers of objects. He's been trained that if he chooses the box with the fewest number, he'll get a reward, a sugar pellet. A wrong answer?
We have to do a lot to ensure that they're really attending to number and not something else.
To make sure the test animal is reacting to the number of objects and not some other cue, Liz varies the object's size, color, and shape. She has conducted thousands of trials and shown that lemurs and rhesus monkeys can learn to pick the right answer.
Terry's obviously doesn't have language, and he doesn't have any symbols for number. So is he counting? Is he doing what a human child does when they recite the numbers 1, 2, 3? No. And yet, what he seems to be attending to is the very abstract essence of what a number is.
Lemurs and rhesus monkeys aren't alone in having this primitive number sense. Rats, pigeons, fish, raccoons, insects, horses, and elephants all show sensitivity to quantity. And so do human infants. At her lab on the Duke campus, Liz has tested babies that were only 6 months old. They'll look longer at a screen with a changing number of objects, as long as the change is obvious enough to capture their attention. Liz has also tested college students, asking them not to count, but to respond as quickly as they could to a touchscreen test comparing quantities. The results? About the same as lemurs and rhesus monkeys.
In fact, there are humans who aren't as good as our monkeys, and others that are far better. So there's a lot of variability in human performance, but in general, it looks very similar to a monkey.
Substitute in the 3, you raise that to the 4.
Even without any mathematical education, even without learning any number words or symbols, we would still have, all of us as humans, a primitive number sense. That fundamental ability to perceive number seems to be a very important foundation, and without it, it's very questionable as to whether we could ever appreciate symbolic mathematics.
The building blocks of mathematics may be pre-programmed into our brains, part of the basic toolkit for survival, like our ability to recognize patterns and shapes, or our sense of time. From that point of view, on this foundation, we've erected one of the greatest inventions of human culture: mathematics. But the mystery remains. If it is all in our heads, why has math been so effective? Through science, technology, and engineering, it's transformed the planet, even allowing us to go into the beyond. As in the work here at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California.
Roger, copy mission.
In 2012,
Exactly, started.
they landed a car-sized rover
Sending at about 175 meters per second as expected.
on Mars.
Touchdown confirmed. Proceed.
Stelzer was the lead engineer on the team that designed the landing system. Their work depended on a groundbreaking discovery from the Renaissance that turned mathematics into the language of science. The law of falling bodies. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle taught that heavier objects fall faster than lighter ones. An idea that, on the surface, makes sense. Even this surface, the Mars Yard, where they test the rovers at JPL.
So Aristotle reasoned that the rate at which things would fall was proportional to their weight. Which seems reasonable.
In fact, so reasonable, the view held for nearly 2,000 years, until challenged in the late 1500s by Italian mathematician Galileo Galilei.
Legend has it that Galileo dropped 2 different weight cannonballs from the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Well, we're not in Pisa, we don't have cannonballs, but we do have a bowling ball and a bouncy ball. Let's weigh them. First, we weigh the bowling ball. It weighs 15 pounds. And the bouncy ball, it weighs hardly anything. Let's drop them.
According to Aristotle, the bowling ball should fall over 15 times faster than the bouncy ball.
Well, they seem to fall at the same rate. This isn't that high, though. Maybe we should drop them from higher. The end is 20 feet in the air up there. Let's see if the balls fall at the same rate. Ready? 3, 2, 1, drop. Galileo was right. Aristotle, you lose.
Dropping feathers and hammers is misleading, thanks to air resistance.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer.
A fact demonstrated on the moon, where there is no air, in 1971 during the Apollo 15 mission.
You know, drop the 2 up here. How about that? Mr. Galileo was correct.
Little ball, soccer ball,
So while counterintuitive,
vegetables.
if you take the air out of the equation, everything falls at the same rate, even Aristotle. But what really interested Galileo was that an object dropped at one height didn't take twice as long to drop from twice as high. It accelerated. But how do you measure that? Everything is happening so fast. Galileo came up with an ingenious solution. He built a ramp, an inclined plane, to slow the falling motion down so he could measure it.
So we're going to use this ramp to find a relationship between distance and time. For time, I'll use an arbitrary unit, a Galileo. 1 Galileo.
The length of the ramp that the ball rolls during 1 Galileo becomes 1 unit of distance.
So we've gone 1 unit of distance in 1 unit of time. Now let's try it for a 2 count. 1 Galileo, 2 Galileo.
In 2 units of time, the ball has rolled 4 units of distance.
Now let's see how far it goes in 3 Galileos. 1 Galileo, 2 Galileo, 3 Galileo.
In 3 units of time, the ball has gone 9 units of distance.
So there it is. There's a mathematical relationship here between time and distance.
Galileo's inspired use of a ramp had shown falling objects follow mathematical laws. the distance the ball traveled is directly proportional to the square of the time.
That mathematical relationship that Galileo observed is a mathematical expression of the physics of our universe.
Galileo's centuries-old mathematical observation about falling objects remains just as valid today.
It's the same mathematical expression that we can use to understand how objects might fall here on Earth, roll down a ramp. It's even a relationship that we used to land the Curiosity rover on the surface of Mars. That's the power of mathematics.
Galileo's insight was profound. Mathematics could be used as a tool to uncover and discover the hidden rules of our world. He later wrote, "The universe is written in the language of mathematics."
Math is really the language in which we understand the universe. We don't know why it's the case that the laws of physics and the universe follows mathematical models, but it does seem to be the case.
While Galileo turned mathematical equations into laws of science, it was another man, born the same year Galileo died, who took that to new heights that crossed the heavens. His name was Isaac Newton. He worked here at Trinity College in Cambridge, England.
Newton cultivated the reputation of being a solitary genius, and here in the bowling green of Trinity College it was said that he would walk meditatively up and down the paths, absent-mindedly drawing mathematical diagrams in the gravel, and the fellows were instructed, also it was said, not to disturb him, not to clear up the gravel after he passed, in case they inadvertently wiped out some major scientific or mathematical discovery.
In 1687, Newton published a book that would become a landmark in the history of science. Today, it is known simply as the Principia. In it, Newton gathered observations from around the world and used mathematics to explain them. For instance, that of a comet seen widely in the fall of 1680.
He gathers data worldwide in order to construct the comet's path. So for November the 19th, he begins with an observation made in Cambridge in England at 4:30 a.m. by a certain young person. And then at 5 in the morning at Boston in New England. So what Newton does is to accumulate numbers made by observers spread right across the globe in order to construct an unprecedentedly accurate calculation of how this great comet moved through the sky.
Newton's groundbreaking insight was that the force that sent the comet hurtling around the sun was the same force that brought cannonballs back to Earth. It was the force behind Galileo's law of falling bodies. And it even held the planets in their orbits. He called the force gravity and described it precisely in a surprisingly simple equation that explains how two masses attract each other, whether here on Earth or in the heavens above.
What's so impressive and so dramatic is that a single mathematical law would allow you to move throughout the universe.
Today, we can even witness it at work beyond the Milky Way.
This is a picture of two galaxies that are actually being drawn together in a merger.
This is how galaxies will themselves.
Right.
Mario Livio is on the team working with the images from the Hubble Space Telescope. For decades, scientists have used Hubble to gaze far beyond our solar system, even beyond the stars of our galaxy. It's shown us the distant gas clouds of nebulae and vast numbers of galaxies wheeling in the heavens, billions of light years away. And what those images show is that throughout the visible universe, as far as the telescope can see, the law of gravity still applies.
You know, Newton wrote these laws of gravity and of motion based on things happening on Earth and the planets in the solar system and so on. But these same laws, these very same laws, apply to all these distant galaxies and, you know, shape them, and everything about them, how they form, how they move, is controlled by those same mathematical laws.
Some of the world's greatest minds have been amazed by the way that math permeates the universe.
Albert Einstein, he wondered, he said, how is it possible that mathematics, which is, he thought, a product of human thought, does so well in explaining the universe as we see it? And Nobel laureate in physics, Eugene Wigner, coined this phrase, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. He said that the fact that mathematics can really describe the universe so well, in particular physical laws, is a gift that we neither understand nor deserve.
In physics, examples of that unreasonable effectiveness abound. When nearly 200 years ago the planet Uranus was seen to go off track, scientists trusted the math and calculated it was being pulled by another unseen planet. And so they discovered Neptune. Mathematics had accurately predicted a previously unknown planet.
If you formulate a question properly, mathematics gives you the answer. It's like having a server that is far more capable than you are. So you tell it, do this, and if you say it nicely, then it will do it, and it will carry you all the way to the truth, to the final answer.
Evidence of the amazing predictive power of mathematics can be found all around us.
I heard it took 5 Elvises to pull them apart.
Television, radio, your cell phone, satellites, the baby monitor, Wi-Fi, your garage door opener, GPS, and yes, even maybe your TV's remote. All of these using visible waves of energy to communicate. And no one even knew they existed until the work of James Maxwell, a Scottish mathematical physicist. In the 1860s, he published a set of equations that explained how electricity and magnetism were related, how each could generate the other. The equations also made a startling prediction. Together, electricity and magnetism could produce waves of energy that would travel through space at the speed of light. Electromagnetic waves.
Maxwell's theory gave us these radio waves, X-rays, these things which were simply not known about at all. So the theory had a scope which was extraordinary.
Almost immediately, people set out to find the waves predicted by Maxwell's equations. What must have seemed the least promising attempt to harness them is made here, in northern Italy, in the attic of a family home by 20-year-old Guglielmo Marconi. His process starts with a series of sparks. The burst of electricity creates a momentary magnetic field, which in turn generates a momentary electric field, which creates another magnetic field. The energy cycles between the two, propagating an electromagnetic wave. Marconi gets his system to work inside, but then he scales up. Over a few weeks, he builds a big antenna beside the house to amplify the waves coming from his spark generator. Then, he asks his brother and an assistant to carry a receiver across the estate to the far side of a nearby hill. They also have a shotgun which they will fire if they manage to pick up the signal. And it works. The signal has been detected even though the receiver is now hidden behind a hill. At over a mile, it is the farthest transmission to date. In fewer than 10 years, Marconi will be sending radio signals across the Atlantic. In fact, when the Titanic sinks in 1912, he'll be personally credited with saving many lives, because his onboard equipment allowed the distress signal to be transmitted. Thanks to the predictions of Maxwell's equations, Marconi could harness a hidden part of our world, ushering in the era of wireless communication. Since Maxwell and Marconi, evidence of the predictive power of mathematics has only grown, especially in the world of physics. 100 years ago, we barely knew atoms existed. It took experiments to reveal their components, the electron, the proton, and the neutron. But when physicists wanted to go deeper, mathematics began to lead the way, ultimately revealing a zoo of elementary particles. Discoveries that continue to this day here at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Geneva, Switzerland. These days, they're most famous for their Large Hadron Collider, a circular particle accelerator about 17 miles around, built deep underground. This $10 billion project, decades in the making, had a well-publicized goal: the search for one of the most fundamental building blocks of the universe. A subatomic particle mathematically predicted to exist nearly 50 years earlier by Robert Brout and François Anglaire, working in Belgium, and Peter Higgs in Scotland.
Peter Higgs sat down with the most advanced physics equations he had and calculated and made this audacious prediction that if we built the most sophisticated machines humans have ever built and used it to smash particles together near the speed of light in a certain way, that we would there discover a new particle. And if this math was really accurate.
The discovery of the Higgs particle would be proof of the Higgs field, a cosmic molasses that gives the stuff of our world mass. What we usually experience as weight. Without mass, everything would travel at the speed of light and would never combine to form atoms. That makes the Higgs field such a fundamental part of physics that the Higgs particle gained the nickname, the God particle. In 2012, experiments at CERN confirmed the existence of the Higgs particle, making the work of Peter Higgs and his colleagues decades earlier one of the greatest predictions ever made.
Well, we built it, and it worked, and he got a free trip to Stockholm.
Here you have mathematical theories which make very definitive predictions about the possible existence of some fundamental particles of nature. And believe it or not, they make these huge experiments and they actually discover the particles that have been predicted mathematically. I mean, this is just amazing to me.
Why does this work? How can mathematics be so powerful? Is mathematics, a truth of nature, or does it have something to do with the way we as humans perceive nature? I mean, to me, this is just a fascinating puzzle. I don't know the answer.
In physics, mathematics has had a long string of successes. But is it really unreasonably effective? Not everyone thinks so.
I think it's an illusion, because I think what's happened is that people have chosen to build physics, for example, using the mathematics that has been practiced, has developed historically. And then they're looking at everything, they're choosing to study things which are amenable to study using the mathematics that happens to have arisen. But actually there's a whole vast ocean of other things that are really quite inaccessible to those methods.
With the success of mathematical models in physics, it's easy to overlook where they don't work that well, like in weather forecasting. There's a reason meteorologists predict the weather for the coming week, but not much further out than that. In a longer forecast, small errors grow into big ones. Daily weather is just too complex and chaotic for precise modeling, and it's not alone. So is the behavior of water boiling on a stove, or the stock market, or the interaction of neurons in the brain, much of human psychology, and parts of biology.
Biological systems, economic systems, it gets very difficult to model those systems with math. We have extreme difficulty with that. So I do not see math as unreasonably effective. I see it as reasonably ineffective.
Perhaps no one is as keenly aware of the power and limitations of mathematics as those who use it to design and make things, engineers.
Look at that wheel.
In their work, the elegance of math meets the messiness of reality, and practicality rules the day.
Mathematics, and perhaps mathematicians, deal in the domain of the absolute. And engineers live in the domain of the approximate. We are fundamentally interested in the practical. And so frequently we make approximations, we cut corners, we omit terms and equations to get things that are simple enough to suit our purposes and to meet our needs.
Many of our greatest engineering achievements were built using mathematical shortcuts. Simplified equations that approximate an answer, trading some precision for practicality. And for engineers, approximate is close enough to take you to Mars.
For us engineers, we don't get paid to do things right. We get paid to do things just right enough.
Many physicists see an uncanny accuracy in the way mathematics can reveal the secrets of the universe, making it seem to be an inherent part of nature. Meanwhile, engineers in practice have to sacrifice the precision of mathematics to keep it useful, making it seem more like an imperfect tool of our own invention. So which is mathematics? A discovered part of the universe? Or a very human invention? Maybe it's both.
What I think about mathematics is that it is an intricate combination of inventions and discoveries. So for example, take something like natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. I think what happened was that people were looking at many things, for example, and seeing that there are 2 eyes, 2 breasts, 2 hands, and so on. And after some time, they abstracted from all of that the number 2.
According to Mario, 2 became an invented concept, as did all the other natural numbers. But then, people discovered that these numbers have all kinds of intricate relationships. Those were discoveries.
We invented the concept, but then discovered the relations among the different concepts.
So is this the answer? That math is both invented and discovered?
This is one of those questions where it's both. Yes, it feels like it's already there, but yes, it's something that comes out of our deep creative nature as human beings.
We may have some idea to how all this works, but not the complete answer. In the end, it remains the great math mystery.
Hello, it's me again. I just finished painting, and I made a little video of when I paint a dog that is in it, and I can show you the painting. It's like this, and what I painted was this cute dog. And that's just a short video, or not so short, of how I think when I'm painting. Hope you find it useful, and yeah, and remember to share my videos and subscribe to my channel, and I will be happy. Okay, thank you. Painting a dog's face. It's really fun. Go through details, building details, and if you see, I go over here to build these fluffy lightly. I'm not dragging it down, I'm going the highlights, because it would be too static. No. It's okay to mark it. Mark it with doing it like this. You can do both actually. You can cross over like this and go in. Floats down here. And I'm getting this here feeling of here, and doing it like this, just touching it. Different layers, different colors. It's a funny expression on that dog. Maybe it was more right actually to go down like this and get in the highlights. The whitest of the whites, as I say, the whitest of the whites is only a small point. So that is what happens with white. If you put on too much white, it just dies. And it's the same thing. You have to have the shadows, and even inside its eyes, they say Rembrandt, the only place he actually used black, only black, without any colors mixed into the black, was in the eyes, to get that infinite deep of darkness. And there is something to it. I can see it now, it just falls in, and there's a bluish highlight within this eye, and there's also some here. So the depth now, it just fell in. And what I do is to take I can use this one to wash it. You have to find the right spot, because remember the highlight always reflects the room. And I think it's kind of over here somewhere. Boom. It's a little bit too big, so I have to mold it a little bit. And now it kind of pops into life. This one there is two, but I placed this one in the wrong place, and I also placed the other one in the wrong place. I see now. Too far down, and that won't work because it won't seem like he is actually looking at me. So I'm going to take it away, and I'm going to put it back where it is supposed to be, and that is all the way up here. And boom, it's alive. And there we are. It's going to be a little bit stronger. It's hard with this pencil, it's a little bit too big. Maybe find another one. And smaller. Maybe this one will work better. I have to remember there has to be some color in there. You can also put on white and then just put a wash of bluish on top of it. That's also a possibility. Or both, actually. So now it pops into existence. The highlight, maybe that highlight, that one is the one who is reflected there. So it's hard to know. But now, boom, it's alive. That's the whole point with highlights. It just pops it into existence. Pops it into life. Whatever. Pardon my quaint English and my strange pronouncements, but it is what it is. Shall we see? Yeah, there's some. This is the kind of work, when you come to this, that's really enjoyable, because it's funny, it's a fun look, and I can concentrate. It's so much harder to concentrate when I'm talking. Yeah, there's. And now I saw this I didn't see before. It is that the background explains that line. But it's hard to see because it's almost like they are the same. So I need to get that one right. I mean, it's the same principle, whatever you paint. As you know, there's a shadow going up here to this one that goes down like that. And so, okay, maybe a little bit more. So it mustn't be too bright either, because then I start to compete with that one. since this is a background, I'll just keep it down. Not as much texture. There are some texture in the grounding in the beginning. So now it starts to differentiate. Oops. Okay. It's funny how we evolve our eyesight. The more you paint, the more you evolve it, and it's I don't know if some people are born with more of it than others, but I'm not a big believer in the Übermensch theories, and I don't think there is an artist gene that is stronger in some people than others. So everybody can learn, and that's a good starting point. I've seen people of all types, and extrovert like me. I'm I would say a noisemaker. I'm not the quiet type. I'm more out there, which of course makes it easy to be hated and loved by some others. Anyway, so there's some reason for everyone to learn how to paint. I think the personality of the painter will kind of be translated into or transported into the painting. That if you are an introvert, your paintings won't be very expressionist, but they will. The aesthetics of it will be as good as any if they work with it. So, now you see how I work now. I keep this down. I use texture here, texture in the whites. I keep this down to give it that fluent thing. Almost like a wash. I saw this in some of the small paintings of Vermeer in New York, in the big gallery. What's it called again? National Gallery or the Met, Metropolitan. You see the wash and how he lets all the different colors just glide into each other, almost like watercolor, and it makes it so poetic. It just drives me nuts. I just feel how he was thinking. You don't recognize it. You just see it. That's how he did it. That was the way he thought when he did it. And you understand that. You understand that thing with the texture. You come a long way. because I can almost have the same. I also see some green. So maybe I should show you when I'm painting actually, because it's easier for me to get it. It's like this. Okay. So now you see, go back to the painting. Sad to see that both the shape of the faces are, I'm kind of doing it from the, maybe I should try to do it over my shoulder or something. Anyway, it's the kind of it's a little bit thinner because it drags it that way on the film. But and the colors becomes a little bit more bluish, I can see. But I mean, the whole, it is kind of wasn't that green. Maybe I need some better equipment for my videos. See, I wanna have this behind here. Okay. Okay. I have had 4 dogs in my life. One of them was called Vivi. That was when I was a young boy. Then I had Snoopy when I was a younger boy and teenager. And then I had one called Sashka. I named her after wife of Rembrandt, one of the ones who died, which she actually made a portrait of from his head, from his mind, so after she was dead. It's also in the myth. It's called Sashka. And I had a big dog called, at the same time, called Timian, like Thym, like spice. And he died like, I think it's 6 or 7 years ago now. It was so sad. But I have his skeleton in a box, and I have his cranium, and I have a beautiful picture of him. So, in the right moment, when he looks at me, I'm an artist and I'm kind of a moody person, and it turned him into quite a smart dog who really were able to pick up all the moods and stuff. But anyway, I think I want to paint him on a big painting, and maybe I should make a video of that and tell the story of Timian. I also lost a good friend some years ago that actually I owe a painting because he made it for my first computer to me, but as I told him that the painting, he couldn't decide what he wanted, and I said, you have to decide what you want now so I don't die. I told him, so I don't die before you get it. And then he died. I was sad, and I think I'm going to paint a portrait of him. So just see what happens. Give it to his parents or something. Yeah. Anyway, about painting. Now you see how I build. I think I build some of the layers can be thick, and some of them has to be very fluid, and you also have to differentiate the colors. So it's many things you have to see at the same time. And there aren't actually any short roads to this. It's like you have to build your own road to Rome over time and walk it many times before you actually get to know it. So I'm going to stop here with this, and I'm going to film some more later when I have worked more with it, so you can see the difference. Okay. So now 3 hours later, I have moved the eyes because they were like this instead of like that. I had to measure, done some mistakes, which meant I had to move the lights in the eyes again, which of course fucked it up because there are limits to how many times I can actually get the most out of it, because it kind of has to dry between the layers. But anyway, I will I'll place one more of them, and now we're going to do the snout and some of these, and then I will work it down there, probably taking 2 or 3 hours. So we'll see how far I get tonight. Exactly, it's 5 in the morning, and I probably work until 9 or 10. Then I sleep all day and wake up at like 5. I wish I had Trump stamina. He sleeps like 4 hours a night, but I actually need more sleep, so that's a problem. Yeah, because we sleep too much. We sleep away too much of our lives. This short blip in existence becomes so short, so much shorter, 1/3 shorter. It's so annoying having to move all this all the time. But then again, when I go in and it has dried, and it's gonna be easier for me to just put on that last beautiful bush. Because now, in the beginning when I was painting, the whole thing was clear, but there has been a lot of overpaint, a lot of back and forth. Is the head too big? Is it too low? Is the eyes like this? Is the eyes a bit too big? And then, so you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's kind of exhausting process, but also quite liberating. So you just have to stick with it and keep on going. See, now I'll move this up, and there's some light going around here. I have to find the right color. It's quite difficult. I'm using the whole scale of colors from the and I'm using the nature's laws, the same I'm kind of the same palette as nature is using, the colors of the rainbow basically. So which makes my painting a little bit more vivid than people who are using a palette that is more subdued. The Norwegian painter Knut is a brilliant painter. He is like in his 70s now, but he is a really good painter, and but he's not using so much color, and that's the thing with his paintings that doesn't compute with me, and that is also why I chose never to become a student of his. And of course he's an alpha male, and I'm more like an alpha male, and two people of that sort doesn't. I'm not the kind of person who would like to run around and do his shopping and his dirty jobs. It's not me. And I thought that if he could learn himself to paint, so can I. But the color thing was a big issue for me, because I love the natures, the color circle, and the vividness of the colors. And he is more into valeur, nuance, black and white, and to me they are brilliantly painted, don't get me wrong, they are really good paintings, but the colors, there's enough life in the surfaces, the textures, is brilliant with texture, and the way he uses the paint to make these almost sculpture-like paintings is beautiful, but I just wish there were more color in them. Actually, in the 90s, he used more colors, and it was really, I love the paintings from the 90s. But he stopped doing it for some weird reason. Anyway, now when you go in here, everything looks white for the untrained eye. So the problem when you paint is that it isn't white. You have to find the right color, the right valeur, and that is a real bitch. Is it green? Is it blue? Is it? And then, if you look around and you ask yourself, is this green? Is it blue? Well, what colors are there around it? And if you can see what colors, it's kind of reddish and bluish, so it has to be greenish reddish, because they are complementary colors. So that is the way I think. Anyway, so and that is also how I paint. I start with a quite rough sketch. I just try to get the figures approximately where they are supposed to be, and then I just start molding everything into place, just moving the parts around in a way, like I did today. I thought the eyes were at the right spot, but I found out that no, they are not the right spot. I need to move them a little bit out and a little bit up, so that's what I did. And of course that takes time, because you have to move everything, but it also gives it becomes more painted when you do that, and of course that is also something I think I'm after, so that's a good thing. Projector work doesn't give you that. If I use a projector to do the sketching, I think I could have doubled my production at least. And well, as I've said before, to me that would be cheating. love the challenge. So. Now, I put some green in here, and there's reddish. Okay, I would say it is the color is Kraplak or Alzarin with some blue in it, so it becomes violet. But also, at the same time, it looks greenish, but I know behind here it has this bluish greenish. So you know that violet and yellow are complementary colors. So if this is greenish, there has to be some red in there. Because it's not green, but it's greenish. So the funny thing is it's kind of reddish down here, and then it moves up here, and I have some real vivid yellow up there. I guess you can't see it on film, it's sad. I'm not good at photograph. When I take photos, art photos, I use Pentax ASI with tungsten film or film, the old style, and I just develop it. I'm not good with digital stuff. It's even more greenish. No, yellowish, greenish. It's very vivid, but it's on a micro scale, and there's also some green in it. So I just have to find the right and it also has to be on a different level. You see, it kind of lights up a little bit. Now there's a shadow going in here. I'm going to try to show you. That's going to have to start all the colors in this is kind of broken, so I do use some, actually it's a color called blue black I'm using right now. It's bought from Winsor Newton, and that is kind of a cold, very cold black, but I feel that ivory black is a little bit warmer. So, but I can teach people everything about this, but there is only one thing that can actually teach you how to paint, and that is to paint. I can only give people an idea of how to think, and when people come to me and tell me, oh, can you teach me how to paint? Well, I can make people jump over the first hurdles, the first big things that I had to struggle with for years because I didn't have anyone to teach to me. So I can fast track them, like move them 10 years in 2 months. But I can't teach their eyes to see. I can only tell them how to see, how to, and the rest is up to you in a way. It's like there's There is no easy way here. Not at all. Yeah. I placed some of these things a little bit wrong, I see now. Maybe because when I placed it the first time, I built this one out, and then I built this one, and then but it doesn't matter that much if everything is exactly as the photograph. That is not my goal anyway. The goal is to... It would be nice though. It is in a way a goal, but it's not a catastrophe. It is not 100%. So people go, oh, your paintings look like photographs. No, they don't. Just people aren't able to see. People are blind. People are blind. Yes, they are. No, sometimes I wonder what do people actually see. I try to remember back when I started out, and how do we actually see the world until before we start painting? Do we actually see the world at all? I remember the first times I saw there were. I looked at. I had a woman as a teacher in a drawing school, and she loved the colors, and she got me into this color circle and Goethe's color stuff, yeah. Goethe's color circle, Goethe's theories. And when I started to see, okay, if you don't paint, you don't think about it, you will see that you will see in the night, you will see all the beautiful colors in the sky and the clouds and stuff, but you don't actually see. Okay? But when the first time I actually saw, when I understood, when I looked at the white and very clear day, and I started to see colors everywhere. On walls, on the sky, the different hues in the cloud. I could see what the shadows were made out of, and everything is so amazing. Amazing. Funny, I had a friend once who wanted to be a painter, and he just didn't get it. He was a brilliant drawer, could draw, but he just didn't get painting. He just didn't understand it didn't have the love for these things. And it's so strange. He didn't see it in a way. Well, he never became a painter. He could have been a good one, but maybe it had to do with openness, humility. I think he was the kind of person who kind of wanted to be an artist and more into the thing about saying, oh, I'm an artist, instead of actually doing all the hard work. And it was also about the subject matter, not the painting. And subject matter is fine, but it can't be the main driving force in the paintings. Anyway, back to this. Now I'm going to put on some spots. It's funny, I'm standing here, I'm 48 years old, I've been doing this for, what is it, 20 or 26 years since I went out of art school. I came out of art school in 1992, and I've painted myself just by myself since then, and I kind of evolved after a while, and in a way my own style, I think, my own approach. But still I'm standing here with the same problems, the same things. Now it is how to get this spot to be the right size, the right hue, so it doesn't pop out, but it seems like it actually is a part of the dog. And that's the whole point, you know, you can't just put on spots. It has to be painted in a way so it seems like they are part of his fur. And this one was too big, so yeah, now it's more shaped like that way, I think. That too, you know, yeah, it looks like a dog, but it has to be the dog. It's like when I painted a gazillion onions and apples because I like the textures and the colors, and it's good training, and also people like to have them on the wall, so that's also a good thing. But the point is that it has to be the apple, not any apple, because the symbol of apple is in our heads, so we have to paint the apple, and I have to paint the dog, this dog, not another dog, but this dog face. This dog face has spots, exactly on the places he has spots, and I have to find a way to put them on the right spots. Okay. I don't know why I started to make this video, but I did, so. Too much. And then you have to kind of break it down. There is, this one is small. There's some green, yellow. Now I'm seeing how they form into skin. My videos get so long, you know, I can't really. God damn it. The customer really wants these paintings now. They are 3 paintings I'm working with right now. They're one person I bought, and bought them when they were sketches, and I don't think he understands the amount of work that goes into this, just doing this dog in this big painting. But then again, I like them to get good paintings. It's a good thing to have a lot to do, so I have 4 portraits I'm doing. Gonna have an exhibition this spring, summer, and I'm just gonna really keep going until I run on a road in about, hopefully, 50 years. So anyway, now I go in here and I have to put this down to make him more okay. Okay, well, I'll film more later. Yeah. So, here I am. It's now 9 in the morning. I'm working all night with this madness. and I'm still not. I was actually going to go over the whole thing tonight, but I got stuck with this doggy dog. So I guess I just have to start up again tomorrow. I have to work down here. There's a lot of stuff happening down here. It's greenish inside here to keep it. See now, all the whites up here are thick, so, and this is kept so it gets this 3D effect, which I'm looking for in this. In everything actually. Strange how awake I am this early in the morning. There's also a little bit more, maybe not more light, but a little bit more here. That's this medallion. This thing has a highlight, but it's kind of in a golden color. So what I do is, first I go in with white, then I kind of try to put in some orange and yellows and reds, kind of on top of it and around it, so it gets a little bit more vivid. When you have gold, you also have yellow, which also will kind of give it a bang. But then again, if I do this and give it more, go a little bit deeper later after it had dried, and I push down the shadows, it also becomes more vivid. Also, you can use the surroundings, since they're all bluish. It's kind of just push down the surroundings a little bit, and you also get more bang for the buck, as they say. These are the sort of things that I love doing to get these effects, and it is also the things that takes a lot of time. That is why, as a painter of these kinds of paintings, I need to be extremely focused to be able to reach my dreams or goals as a painter before I die, because time is not really on my side here, especially now at the age of 48. Time is definitely not on my side, and there are some kind of aesthetics I want to be able to make before I go. So, not that it matters, because when I'm dead, I'm just dead. I'm not going to remember anything, no. But it's the pleasure of feeling a sense of not have wasted my life in a way. If one could go to Mars be the ones that one of the ones who went to Mars and die on Mars, knowing that you would die on Mars. I mean, that wouldn't be a wasted life. A wasted life is... I feel when people are climbing Mount Everest, with that kind of risk, so many people have done it before. They are 1/3 of them are losing their lives. I mean, it's just such a waste. And if you have kids, it's really just, or people who loves you, it's just really, it's almost like a suicide in a way. Anyway, that was a digression. Base jumping, that's unbelievably dangerous. I mean, use your life to create something, or something that lasts. If you just have an ordinary job, get yourself a hobby that you push to the limits of your abilities. Anyway, now in here it's kind of green, and all these things are enhancing the reds, and that is a clue. And I see, I hope people learned something from this. Because actually it takes an effort to make videos. So, and I'm not earning more than $1 a day on my channel, so better be worth it. Anyway, Mr. Spotty. All these things, shadows, directions of shadows, so important to me. I actually made texture here and I moved it up there because it was a wrong spot and I didn't see that. And I moved it. And now you see this one goes a little bit too far down. But it's stuff like that. I don't know, the closer I come to finish line, I just keep building and they just keep growing between my hands. And the closer I get to the finish line, the more time it actually takes to do the changes. Or I'm kind of manic, that's, I just can't let it go. Like Donald Trump with his tweets. But I think it's a good thing. And yeah, oh, that was wrong. So there's nothing to fuck up. And it also has to go, you can't just cut it off there, it has to go all the way in like this so it feels natural. Then you lose some of the room or the shadow, and then you have to go in over that again with a little bit deeper hue. Just pull it back out and to enhance it a little bit, and then go in with some whites and red. and I kind of touch it. Ah, fuck. It's hard to see sometimes. But it's also bluish, so when I touch it up like this, I remember the guy who tattooed me, he was, oh, I'm going to do a touch-up. So at first you go in and you do the main stuff, the lining and all these things, and then you go in and you start to enhance it, make it into a more lively and then I do like this to keep it down. So you see now, our shadow just became a little bit more natural, but I see now that I kind of have exhausted the after a while, when you have been going over it and over it and over it, it is also almost like it has to dry before you can put on more color. You have kind of pushed in so much into it that it can't absorb anymore, it just becomes a mush. So you can actually lose the work if you keep on going, because it just becomes this, yeah, horrible mess in a way. But it's also always hard to know when to stop. When do you stop? Is it enough? Well, for me it's at the point where I feel like I'm falling through the floor and I feel like my legs hurt and my back hurt and my body just tells me enough is enough. And yeah, that is I try, of course, to see, okay, I shouldn't do more today because it won't get any better. And I think I'm at this point now because also I'm getting tired, and when I'm getting tired, I'm getting sloppy. So that's not a good thing. Yeah, I think I should do the things down here tomorrow or another day, because I've basically reached my, see here, greenish, but I can't really tear myself away from it, so it's the same thing every day, every day, every day. I mean, people don't realize how crazy it is to be a painter. Yeah, okay, I haven't got, probably have to, I use a lot of hours, yeah, and I have to use a lot of hours down here. So there's absolutely no point to continue now. And the barrel's coming down there. Down here. Yeah, okay. Spots in there. Also, the palette is getting dirty, and when the palette is getting dirty, the tools are not that good anymore. So really need to go to the gym and stretch tomorrow, because, okay, now a couple of spots here, so that I can feel good about myself. So, oh, that was too much. Okay, this have to be darker so they fall in. It's funny with spots actually, because they are a leopard or a dog or something, isn't it? They are put on by the laws of mathematics and chaos. It's quite fun. On a leopard and stuff. It's no dog or no animal with spots would be the same. It's like snowflakes. So okay, where some. Yeah, but I should stop now before I fuck this up. Okay, let's stay like this tomorrow. Okay. So, change on. I think I'm kind of got to a point where I can leave it now because the customer wants it today, and I don't want to push it any longer. So just burn up. This one. Just needed that one. And I've been painting so much for the last days that I'm really starting to basically talk to myself. So, okay, medallion. And what would be needed here now for me to go further is actually that it could dry for a couple of weeks and to go over it again, but I'm sorry to say I haven't got time for it. So I just have to let it go. I might bring it back in later, on a later date, and do some more work on it. Hopefully that, I think the person who bought it wants to have it in his apartment for his birthday, so that's my theory. So I guess just need to finish this beauty off now. So just put in some spots of light, some fur, so it gives that feeling, and not overdo it, because then I can stand here for another 6 hours. It is in a way a limit to how far you can go before you have to redo the whole thing. So it's very important to put in these small touch-ups to give it some punch. So guess the dog has the doggy look. Let's good thing. Put in some blue highlight there. And there. And the other one is a little bit lighter. There. I think that has some green in it, or yellow, so I'm going to put in some yellow. Yeah, I think it came to life now. It was a little bit big. So, yeah, that should be good. A little highlight here and there. So, do some. So many things I could do better. Anyway, I think I'll stop filming there. So I'll just do some more on it and then